Welcome to a very special episode of Smail Auto's Cars in the Community. I'm your host, David Fedor. We're here today to talk about Faraday Troops First Foundation, an organization that provides meaningful assistance to wounded veterans. We're here today with the Troops First Foundation co-founder and executive director, Rick Kell. Mr. Kell, thank you very much for joining us today.
David, thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. Can we start off? Can you tell us a little bit about how Troops First came about, how you realized that there was a need for these services and programs?
Well, back in 2006, I was invited to visit Walter Reed Medical Center and spend time with some of the wounded warriors that were there at the time. And I was, in my life, it was kind of interesting because I was leaving where I had been for the past 30 years. It was just time for a change. And I was going to do some consulting on my own. So my time was pretty much my own at that point. And after having been invited to Walter Reed, I decided that I wanted to keep going back to find out what was happening in the landscape, what these warriors and their families had to deal with on a daily basis, and try to evaluate, at least from my perspective, the services that were reaching them while they were recovering and either inpatient or outpatient at the various medical facilities, and what services were not reaching them, and what could be done to enhance the landscape, not necessarily duplicate services that were being offered, but what needed to be done differently. I mean, we were still early on, 2006, and the private sector involvement was not as robust then as it is now. So there were some things that were fairly obvious, and others we had to continue to look to see as their circumstances and situations changed and evolved over a period of time, primarily during recovery. What was going to make it, what could we do to facilitate reintegration and moving forward better than what was happening at that point? So that being said, we also, at the time, I was also doing some trips to Iraq and Afghanistan and taking coaches and celebrities over. And in Thanksgiving of 2007, I took this gentleman by the name of David Faraday to Iraq to visit the troops, along with a few other PGA Tour players. And before we left, we went and visited the warriors at Walter Reed. And so we're sitting in a small forward operating base out near the Syrian border in the Al Anbar province at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And David said, "What do you do? What is it that you really do?" Because he knew that I was doing these trips and that I spent time at Walter Reed. So I tried to fill in the puzzle pieces for him. And I said, and what this is leading to, I want to start a foundation. And I happened to have some notes in my rucksack, and I handed him the notes, and he took about 10 minutes and he looked at me and he said, "I'll do this with you." So I guess in essence, that's how we got started. But we put a lot of thinking and a lot of our own sweat equity into trying to find out what these warriors and their families were dealing with and how best could we help them move forward and achieve the things that they wanted to achieve after a severe injury.
Very nice, very nice. Now you took and built upon those seeds and you started a few initiatives and programs. Can you tell us a little bit about the Troops First Foundation's current state and their programs?
We have 4 primary programs that we run. One is Operation Proper Exit, which was a direct result of spending time with the warriors in the hospitals who kept telling us that they wanted to go back to theater. They didn't leave on their own terms. Many of them don't remember leaving. And we worked for about 1.5 years with the Pentagon trying to facilitate this. Eventually, we're told, no, we can't take them back. And I reached out to General Ray Odierno, who was the commanding general in Iraq at the time. This is 2009, early on in 2009. And he was familiar with the program as we were trying to pitch it to the Pentagon. but he also had the insight and perspective as not only what I believe is a tremendous military leader, but the father of a wounded warrior. His son, a graduate of West Point, was injured in Iraq when his Humvee was hit with an RPG, and he lost his driver, and in the same explosion lost his left arm very high. And General O knew what it was like to command and send people into battle, and also now he knew what it was like to have a son who was severely injured in battle. So he thought this program, Operation Proper Exit, to let the warriors return, was something that was very good. And he weighed in on it and helped shape it a little bit, and was able to get the Pentagon to say yes. And to date, we've now done 21 of these trips with over 120 warriors participating. And we've done 10 in Iraq, and we have completed 11 in Afghanistan.
Wow, that's amazing.
So we maintain this program. We're the only ones who do this. It's pretty unique, very valuable to the warriors that get the opportunity to participate. We also have a service dog program. We've got that we started 3 years ago. We've got 24 dogs working around the country, helping warriors in their daily activities and lives. Beyond the warriors themselves, they become great friends and family members to whoever happens to be there in the house. It's really a fun program. We enjoy it very much, and we have dogs working from Oregon all the way out to New York and pretty much everywhere in between. So that's kind of neat. We are getting ready. We're actually getting ready to celebrate and do a ribbon cutting at the Leroy Petrie Village of Honor. 3 years ago, the foundation was gifted some land, approximately 7 lots that were all in one location, not far from the University of Maryland, so about 35 minutes from Walter Reed. And instead of basically selling these lots and looking at them as an asset, we looked at them as a different type of asset. So we chose to build 7 individual family homes that we are calling transitional homes. And these homes will be available to warriors and their families after a vetting process, which basically the vetting process is these warriors need to have accepted where they are in their recovery and have to be actively involved in the next step in their lives moving forward, whether it's work, job training, education, but they have to be moving forward to be a qualifier to live in one of these homes for up to 2 years. And the only financial participation they're obligated to render is utilities. We're taking care of everything else. So we've got the ribbon cutting on later in June, and we've got 2 families already identified for the first 2 homes, and we'll quickly move through a process to have all 7 homes filled, most likely by July or August. And very excited about this. It's a big project for an organization our size, but we've had a lot of help, and we're very proud to be able to offer these homes. So that's 3 of the programs, and our last program is called Operation Warrior Call. And Warrior Call is our outreach program to have warriors calling other warriors to do a situation report. How are you? Haven't talked to you in a while. How's your family? How's your job? Or what are you dealing with? Are you in good shape? We're facing a daily epidemic of veteran and active duty suicides. And we believe that if we can do our part in help strengthening the force through connectivity, that we can help turn this around. The leadership agrees with us. Warriors agree with us. And we've chosen Medal of Honor recipient Leroy Petrie to be the national spokesperson for this program. So we do 4 very meaningful projects on a daily basis. But if I was going to answer the question of what defines us, what is at the core of our true spirit as an organization, we work every day with a warrior or a warrior and their family, trying to help them move from A to B. A to B could be helping them with employment, helping them with finances, a multitude of things that come up in life in general. And we stand ready to assist the warriors that reach out to us in finding solutions to these problems that will in fact help them move forward, move ahead in their lives, and be able to maintain that. So we're pretty active. We stay very busy.
Very, very rewarding projects. Now, of course, these projects are helped, donated, and funded through donations, some charities, some fundraisers, and things like that. The Western Pennsylvania area itself, with Smail Auto Group, we do our May initiative, and then also Shop and Save does their Earn Your Wings campaign as well, that raises a lot of money in this area. How important are donations and things like that, and what are some of the other ways that people can support these valuable programs?
Well, we actually survive on private sector donations. We as an organization do not spend a lot of money to fundraise and advertise. The majority of our funding, a great percentage of it, typically 90% plus, we put out the front door to going back into the services for warriors and their families. So that being said, we don't want to take a chunk of funding every year and reinvest in fundraising, because we have great people like Jim Smail and his family and his automotive family that support us with a couple events. We have a few other situations like that around the country where people are familiar with us, familiar with how we operate, and that we are, in fact, very good stewards of the resources that were provided in the private sector. That being said, the money that comes specifically from Pennsylvania and Jim Smail's efforts and an extension of his efforts have been very significant over the last 4 or 5 years. They are, in fact, responsible for helping us make decisions like, we have some land, let's sell it and put the funds into our general operating account, or let's take some of the money from our general operating account, go out and look for additional contributions, either in kind, materials, or services, and let's build 7 houses on these lots. So the freedom that we enjoy in terms of making decisions, staying true to our mission, is really brought about by men like Jim Smail and a few others around the country that, through their efforts on an annual basis, really provide us with the opportunity to be effective. They have a say. Jim obviously sits on our board. They have a say in helping steer and guide. And we also bring in some military leadership, some retired sergeants major, and some that are still active duty, and they sit on what we call our Senior Enlisted Advisory Board. So we are very close and connected to today's force, and we get their insight as to what they feel is happening, with their troopers and their personnel, and how we can effectively participate. But it truly is the Jim Smails of the world, in our small world, that really facilitate us being able to stay on point and work on our mission on a daily basis. To the specific point of Pennsylvania, there's always a conversation whenever fundraising comes up about, well, we're going to raise this money in Pennsylvania. How much of it's going to go to Pennsylvania? Well, and not trying to be, I don't know. I'm not trying to be flip with this answer at all. But I've been in Afghanistan and Iraq on numerous occasions. I've had an opportunity to talk to thousands of service members that are serving downrange and in harm's way. And no one's ever said, hey, I'm from Pennsylvania, I'm only going to protect my buddies from Pennsylvania. They're all there for you and me and for everybody else and for our way of life. So while I appreciate the conversation about how much of this will stay, we focus more on the need. And if the need happens to be in Utah or Mexico, New Mexico, we take care of where we recognize those needs. However, when we can, and our programs do touch people in many states. For instance, later this year, we'll be delivering 2 service dogs to retired service members in Pennsylvania. And we've had members or residents of Pennsylvania participate in our proper exit trip in our Warrior Call program. So we do get out and touch folks from Pennsylvania, but the significant impact that the dollars raised in Western Pennsylvania, they help warriors all over the country. And I think Jim and the people that work with him understand that, and that's what they want to do as well.
No, that's great. And we're very proud to be able to help how we can and when we can. So for people interested in more information, your website is troopsfirstfoundation.org.
Correct.
And you're also active on Facebook and social media.
I would say that Facebook has more of the current photographs because it's just easier to get on it and post. So the Facebook journey can be kind of fun and up to date. Our website is more nuts and bolts, a little bit more descriptions about each of the programs and how to get in touch and importantly, how to donate as well.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
That is exactly what I was going to say to you, Mr. Kell. Thank you very much for taking the time and for everything that you do.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.